Hello everyone. Back again with film recaps. In this video, I'm going to recap one of a horror comedy films from 2011, titled Fright Night. Before we get to the storyline, I'd like to wish everyone a happy and great day. Without further ado, let's get straight to the storyline. The film opens with a news report about a woman who claimed a man tried to bite her at the grocery store, and when the camera pans away, it shows a family dog looking scared, watching as its owner, Adam, scramble in fear. The young man runs to his parents' room, where both of them lay dead and covered in blood. He hides under the bed, and takes a gun. As he's fumbling with the gun, the creature comes into the room and starts to drag the father's body away. Right before the vampire finds him, and readies to maul him. The next scene introduces us to our main character, Charlie, a high schooler in Clark County, Nevada, dragging his broken-down motorcycle home. He says hi to his neighbor Doris, before pulling up at his driveway. His mom, Jane, starts complaining about their mysterious new neighbor, who stocks up a pile of concrete in his driveway for no apparent reason. The two then get interrupted by Charlie's girlfriend, Amy, who's come to pick him up for school. When Charlie's in class, the teacher takes the morning roll and several students are absent, including one of his best friends, Adam, who we learn has been killed at the beginning of the movie. When Charlie is hanging at his locker later on, one of his childhood best friends, Ed, pulls him aside and says that Adam is missing. And so, Ed proposes that they should go check on him tonight. Charlie is reluctant, because ever since he started dating Amy, he's started to become one of the cool kids. Meanwhile, Ed and Adam are considered losers. So instead of helping Ed, he goes on a date with Amy instead. As Amy is dropping him off, he sees his mom flirting with their new neighbor, Jerry, so the two decide to come over to say hi.
Amy. Hey, Jerry.
After Jerry retreats inside, Charlie finds a message from a pissed-off Ed, who threatens to spread embarrassing childhood stories about Charlie if he dares not show up. This prompts Charlie to rush to Adam's house, where Ed is waiting. The two try knocking on the door, but there's no answer, so they break their way in and sneak inside. As the two start exploring the dark and empty house, Ed claims that Charlie's new neighbor Jerry is a vampire. Ed and Adam had been conducting an investigation on this for a while, and they are more than certain of Jerry's identity now, one of the evidences being the fact that Jerry's windows are completely blacked out. He warns Charlie to never invite Jerry into his house, because a vampire requires an invitation to come in. Of course, Charlie finds this ridiculous, and the two start arguing about how much Charlie changed since he started hanging with the cool kids, who Ed thinks are nothing but fake skanks. On that note, the two part ways. Ed rides his skateboard home, until the school bully, Mark, ambushes him, prompting him to climb over a fence to run away. Unfortunately, he finds none other than Jerry in the random backyard, so he breaks his way into the random home, thinking Jerry wouldn't be able to come in. But he does, because the house is abandoned. Jerry announces that he knows Ed has been watching him, while Ed begins running upstairs. He jumps out the window, but Jerry is already outside waiting for him. Ed then falls into a swimming pool, and here Jerry simply tells him to calm down because what is going to happen is best for him. He uses his mental manipulation powers to get Ed's conviction to waver, before sinking his fangs into his neck. On the next day, Charlie notices that Ed isn't at school, so he decides to pay his house a visit afterwards, but only finds his parents there. They welcome him with open arms, and he asks for permission to go upstairs under the guise of borrowing some book. Inside Ed's room, he finds a website of a vampire hunter named Peter Vincent. He also finds a series videos Ed discreetly took in front of Jerry's house, where we can see Jerry's car door moving on its own, proving that Jerry isn't visible on camera. This deeply shocks Charlie and finally convinces him that what Ed was saying is true. When he returns home, Jerry suddenly turns up, claiming that he needs a favor. He has a girl over but he's run out of beers, so he asks if Charlie owns a six-pack, which Charlie nervously says yes to. Jerry follows him right through his door, but as expected, he doesn't step in. Charlie digs for the six-pack in his fridge as Jerry watches.
Oh shit.
Can I help you with that?
He accidentally breaks a bottle, and Jerry offers to help him clean it up, but the scared Charlie insists he can do it himself. After handing Jerry the beer and closing the door, he heads upstairs, where Amy is waiting for him. Charlie's mind is too preoccupied with thoughts about Jerry now, that he rushes to the window. He sees the arrival of Jerry's date for the night, who is none other than one of the neighbors, Doris. Charlie harshly shoves Amy down the bed when Jerry looks up at them. Amy has no idea what the hell is wrong with this guy that she decides to leave. Later that night, Charlie is awakened from his sleep by the sound of a woman screaming, so he calls 911. But after the police arrives, Jerry smooth talks his way out of the situation by saying that he simply made a woman scream out of pleasure. Charlie watches this interaction in contempt and pays attention as Jerry gets into his car and drives away right after the police leave. Worried for Doris's safety, he sneaks into the vampire's home and starts looking around. He finds an occult insignia in Jerry's study and takes a picture for evidence. But before he could find out more, Jerry returns, forcing Charlie to hide inside the closet. Surprisingly, here he finds a secret door leading to a hall with several chambers, one of which is locked. He looks through the peephole and finds Doris there, so he takes out a screwdriver in an attempt to unlock the door. But unfortunately, he is forced to hide yet again as he hears the sound of Jerry approaching. Through the door gap, he watches as Jerry drags poor Doris out and sucks her blood. As this happens, Doris instructs him to stay quiet. Afterwards, he throws Doris back inside the chamber and heads back out. Charlie finally unlocks the door to get Doris out of the house safely, while Jerry is preoccupied with watching TV in the living room. The two make their way down the stairs and start heading for the door, until Jerry walks in and forces them to retreat. As it turns out, he is only grabbing an apple. And then, he returns to his TV, an opportunity Charlie seizes to escort Doris away. But on their way out, it is revealed that Jerry is watching them with a sneaky smile. The two have made their way out, and it is now daylight, but as Doris steps under the sun, she spontaneously combusts, traumatizing Charlie. When he returns to the house, he warns his mom to stay away from Jerry, and to not ever invite him to their house, which confuses her. At school, he decides to research about a vampire hunter, whose website Ed kept open in his computer, Peter Vincent. He then proceeds to track the guy down, which leads him to the venue of a theatrical show the guy holds. Pretending to be a reporter, he gets an audience with Peter Vincent in his very apartment, which is decorated with various supernatural hunting weapons. But when he starts asking how to kill a vampire, and shows him a printout of the occult insignia he found at Jerry's house, the man calls him a nut job and kicks him out. With no other choice, Charlie goes home and puts up garlic and crosses around his room. Meanwhile, the school bullies, Mark and Ben, watch from outside his window in wonder. Jerry then walks up to them, and within less than a minute, attacks the two. Meanwhile, back inside the house, Charlie is carving out stakes to arm himself, until his girlfriend shows up and asks him why he's been acting so weird. But before he gets to explain, Jerry comes knocking on their door to ask Jane to hand over her son, because Charlie broke into his house the other day. Jane is shocked to hear this, but decides to trust her son Charlie, so she tells Jerry to go bleep himself. This angers the vampire, so he takes a shovel and starts digging the backyard of Charlie's house, and pulls out the gas line to set it on fire. This causes the fireplace to explode, burning the house. Now assured that Jerry is dangerous, the three pile inside the car and start driving away. Jerry attempts to go after them with Charlie's motorcycle, but its front wheel is busted, so he throws it at the car, scaring Amy. When Charlie tries explaining that Jerry is a vampire, his mom still refuses to believe him. Not long after, Jerry comes ramming his truck against the back. He also rams his vehicle into the side of their car, before passing them and blocking the road. Jane panics, but Charlie yells at her to keep driving, so she does. Unfortunately, they are in for more trouble, as Jerry is still clinging to the underside of the car, and manages to claw his way through the car floor. It appears that he has returned to his true form now. Charlie begins kicking to get him off, and Jane finally stops the car once he's gone. But then, another vehicle crashes into their car, and the angry driver steps out. It is now that Jerry lifts the car. In his vampire form, he approaches and attacks the driver, draining his blood. Charlie then courageously steps in with a big cross to arm himself, while telling his mom and girlfriend to run. He slowly approaches Jerry, who is now returned to his human form. But surprisingly, the cross only burns when it comes into contact with the vampire, and he easily throws Charlie into their car. While he teases Charlie about stupid humans and their penchant for missing the heart when staking vampires, Jane sneaks up behind them and impales Jerry with a road sign, making him squeal in pain. At the same time, Jane collapses, so Charlie and Amy carry her up, and the three climb inside the dead man's car. Charlie purposely slams into his family car, causing it to topple on top of Jerry. When the family flees the scene, we can see Jerry's bones realigning. At the hospital, the police also arrive to ask them what happened, but of course Charlie doesn't reveal anything because he knows they won't believe him. Meanwhile, Peter Vincent decides to study the printout Charlie left at his office the other day, and finally realizes that Charlie wasn't trying to mess with him. He calls him up, and asks him to come to his place. Once the three finally converge at Peter Vincent's place, he eventually opens up to them. He says that the insignia belongs to a very strong vampire breed that emerged from Mediterranean, and would keep their victims alive for days in order to turn them into vampires as well. According to him, Charlie has no chance against this vampire, as killing this species would require an army. All of a sudden, Vincent gets a call announcing that he's got a package delivery, so he asks the delivery guy to come in and tells his girlfriend to fetch the package for him. However, as it turns out, it was only a ploy. Ed walks in, having been turned into a vampire now. Vincent fetches a crucifixion nail to threaten him, but then cowardly scrambles in fear as Ed chases after him, and the sliding door severs Ed's arm off just as he's about to catch Vincent. While this is going on, Charlie and Amy stumble upon Vincent's girlfriend's dead body at the entrance, and discover that the elevator switch has been smashed, meaning they have to find another exit route. This leaves them with no option but to hide behind a shelf, as Ed starts looking for them.
Oh, fuck!
After the two knock the shelf on top of Ed, Charlie takes the nearest blade and tells his girlfriend to go to safety. Ed proceeds to choke and throws him across the room, but Charlie rises again and takes the axe displayed on the wall. The two face off, and Charlie wildly swings his axe at Ed, until it finally lands in his throat. On the other side of the apartment, Amy arms herself with a gun and silver bullets, right as Jerry the vampire arrives. She tries shooting him, but it barely harms him as it's meant for werewolves. Not out of ideas, she finds the Holy Grail, and splashes the holy water in his face, momentarily incapacitating him. If you think Ed's dead, he's not. He simply realigns his neck, and proceeds to attack Charlie, pinning him down and gets ready to bite into his neck. Until Amy steps in and smacks him with a flail. When Ed rises again, Charlie reluctantly stakes him through his heart, causing Ed to briefly revert back to his true self, and tells Charlie that it's okay before dematerializing into ash. After announcing that Jerry is here, the two proceed to escape through a door that leads to a nightclub, while Jerry, who seemingly has recovered from the holy water, comes after them. Just as the two are forced apart by the crowd, Jerry finds the girl and drags her away. With his mental manipulation power, he gets her to taste his blood and fully incapacitates her as he kisses her. Meanwhile, Charlie tries to come after her, but a security guard starts dragging him away, leaving him no choice but to watch as Jerry sucks her blood. When he returns to Peter Vincent's apartment later, the man is packing his bags to leave. Vincent confesses that he never killed a vampire before, and only started collecting supernatural killing devices out of trauma because his parents were murdered by a vampire. After hearing how Charlie vows to kill Jerry, he hands Charlie a special stake that is said to have the ability to turn a vampire's victims back into human when the OG vampire is staked. To add, he also informs Charlie that a vampire couldn't think straight when they're set on fire. Afterwards, Charlie heads to a thrift store, and purchases several items, including a crossbow. He gears up and heads to Jerry's house, making sure to break all the windows to let sunlight in. Charlie then finds Amy inside one of the chambers, but hears her get snatched away shortly before he gets to her. When he comes back out, he stumbles upon Peter Vincent, who is armed and has come to help him. Here they discover a floor trap under the chamber wherein Amy was held, and proceed to jump down. The two tread down the hall and walk past a door, but unbeknownst to them, Jerry is lurking behind them. He then snatches Peter off the ground, and Charlie tries shooting him, but Jerry catches the arrow. Up next, Jerry closes the door, locking Charlie away from him and Peter. Peter starts backing up while shooting Jerry, but bullets don't seem to stop him. At last, Jerry flicks a pebble at his forehead, causing him to bleed. It is now revealed that Jerry is not alone, and the young vampires that he bit start crawling out of the soil walls, attracted by the smell of blood. Meanwhile, on the other side of the basement, Charlie finds Amy, whose mind is now corrupted by the vampire. She pins Charlie down, while Peter begins shooting the young vampires with his special shotgun, but it jams after a couple of shots. As Amy takes out her fangs to bite Charlie, he stakes her, but missing the heart on purpose. Charlie then pries the door open, and as soon as he sees Peter is in trouble, he shoots the ceiling, creating little sunlight holes to save Peter. Jerry discovers that Peter has been bitten, seeing that he's starting to smoke in the sunlight, and is slowly turning into a vampire as well. Charlie's effort is not enough, as the young vampires, one of them being Mark the high school bully, corner the two, while Amy walks up to Jerry and starts kissing him passionately. With Jerry distracted, Charlie uses Peter's lighter to set himself on fire, and makes a jump on Jerry, revealing to us that his suit is fireproof after all. Jerry begins screaming and thrashing about as Charlie clings to him, creating a big hole in the ceiling which lets more sunlight in and burns Jerry. Peter then throws Charlie the stake, and he stabs it through Jerry's heart, turning him into dust and drifts away. It is at this point that the young vampires turn back into humans, with absolutely no memory of how they got in the basement. Both Charlie's friends and several other people are brought back to life, and this is where the movie ends. Okay guys, that's all the recap of Fright Night 2011. Thanks for watching. See you again in the next video.